Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I think I'm just getting madder as the show goes along. I refreshed my page over here, WFAA.com, the news partner to the WBAP newsroom over here. So check them out if you want to see the list I'm looking at. It has the school closings, well, schools and colleges in North Texas. And when I hit refresh, it just got a lot longer. And I think a lot of these ISDs have added Friday, like Dallas ISD. They already announced closed Thursday and Friday. HEB. Not the grocery store, but Hearst Euless Bedford ISD. Just closed tomorrow. Highland Park, just closed tomorrow. Irving, Thursday and Friday. Lancaster, Thursday and Friday. Rockwall, Thursday and Friday. You don't even know what Friday's going to look like. Why are y'all jumping off of school so quick? They are so quick to close school for the lightest and most trifling of causes. Don't tell me, well, we'll make the days up or whatever. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. Let's ask David in Fort Worth. If you want to be after David, 800-288-9227. Yeah. David, go ahead.
All righty. I am a retired school teacher, and I was just looking at a school schedule. They have 3 flex days built in for bad weather days. So if the kids were in school and never missed a day, they would have those 3 holidays off in April and May. Because if they're let out now, they lose 2 of their holidays in April and May. All schools are required to build in days into their schedule. Fort Worth ISD made their school days longer to allow for it. They have to have 75,600. Fort Worth ISD has 78,000 minutes of instruction per day or per year. So schools have a way of making the hours up.
Right, but how does that account for the bad message you're sending kids that education's not important? It's not something you should fight for?
That is not the case. I've taught who cancels school, by the way. You're bad-mouthing the teachers and principals and counselors. Who's the one that cancels the school day?
Superintendent.
Yes, so start blaming them, not the teachers. I taught 32 years in math, biology, and driver's ed. I still teach driver's ed now that I'm retired. But, we don't determine that. We had school one day when there was a half inch of friggin' ice on the highway. It took me 45 minutes to make a 12-minute drive. We got to school. I had less than 10% of our students came that day to school. Out of 1,200 kids, we had 103 show up.
Cool. Cancel school on that day. Don't cancel school on Friday when it's Wednesday and we don't even know if there's going to be anything on the ground. I'm not saying never close school. I'm not saying it doesn't matter how treacherous conditions are, we never close school. And I'm not saying there's never a good reason to do it. I'm saying you don't know about Friday. So the idea that you would cancel it 48 hours in advance when you don't even know if it's going to be bad betrays the real thought process that education really isn't that important. It's not something you fight for or you go through or you overcome obstacles for. In fact, if there's the slightest obstacle put in front of your feet, then you can just cancel school. Oh, yeah, out of an abundance of caution. It may snow tomorrow, so we're going to be off on Friday too. It may rain hard tomorrow, so we're going to go ahead and cancel school. That's something that happens now. No, and I don't care if they get to make the days up. The point is you're telling kids, not with your words, but with your actions, that education isn't important. We didn't do this a generation ago, and they don't do this if you drive like 6 hours north, they don't do this in places where it snows normally. So it's not like we can't go to school. It's not like we can't have school. Most school districts have to go through this, and we just choose not to, and that's not good. That's not good for our kids. That's not good for education. That's not good for our social fabric. It's just, I don't know, and it just seems really lazy.
Okay, I disagree with you. I grew up in the 60s. I went to school. My first grade was 60, 61. When we had snow, the kids got up. We played outside. Got cold, could come in. When I got older and realized people get hurt on ice and snow, I didn't do so much of it. I have been where we had ice on the sidewalk outside of a building, saw somebody slip and fall and break a leg. To me, it's not worth risking. With single kids, possible injury, or for that matter, faculty members.
David,
I'm now 71.
we had a kid out in my neighborhood who died in a car wreck on the way to school. No, there is acceptable risk. We don't do something if it could save one life. It's not worth it if one person gets hurt. No, going to the grocery store has risk, and we still do it because eating groceries are important. We do things that involve risk that we consider important. And when we say, well, we're not going to do this because one person might get hurt or one person might get the sniffles or one person had a positive COVID test, then you're telling them that it's not important, and as important as doing all these other things that require driving. Getting on the road is dangerous. If you don't want to have one kid injured in the process of conducting school, then you would have to close school entirely. We'd all be homeschooled tomorrow. No, I don't buy it. I appreciate you being polite. I felt like he was struggling to be nice to me. And I appreciate the effort, David, in Fort Worth. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Jim Dutton. He's the host of Texas Home Improvement, making sure your house is going to be ready for the cold weather. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. If you want to jump in on the conversation, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I feel some people are just aghast because they've never heard anyone say anything negative about teachers or schools before. Keep listening to this show. You'll hear a lot more of it. Also, you can hear my next guest. Happy to have him on. Dutton is on. And look, he takes care of your house when he does his show. But Jim Dutton, host of Texas Home Improvement, what do we need to know about going into the cold weather that's supposed to happen overnight?
Well, the first thing is everybody's going to tell you to drip the faucets. And if you will wrap your faucets, wrap the hose bibs, you really don't need to have them dripping.
Really?
It's not that cold.
Why does everyone do it?
Because they've always done it that way.
Guilty. I heard that, I think, once when I was like 8 years old. And so, Okay, we drip the faucets when it gets cold.
If you think about the northern states, they wrap the pipes. They don't drip the faucets all winter long.
I don't know what they do up there. I haven't spent a lot of time in Yankee Land.
So, pool pumps, you got to make sure you cover all your pool equipment and things like that. But really, if you're worried that the freeze is going to freeze your pipes up, shut the water off, drain the lines, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. I haven't had a pool in adulthood, Jim Dutton, so I haven't had to think about a lot of things. I just have the old normal house. The really only things I do is I unscrew the water hose and I put that little styrofoam cup over my water spout. And that's really the extent of my cold weather prep. What am I missing?
You're not missing a whole lot. We over worry about it. I mean, if the temperatures go below freezing and they're going to stay there for several days, then we got to do other preparations. But when it's just one night, and tonight, for instance, we're only looking at an hour or two of freezing temperature, and that's going to be right at morning, right at dawn. The rest of the night, we're really not getting below freezing. We're making a whole lot out of what this storm's supposed to be. I think we're going to be a little disappointed tomorrow.
What about fireplaces? My wife is concerned that we have gunk built up in the fireplace and it's going to catch fire and we're going to have problems. And I don't know if she just saw something on Dateline and I missed that episode, but is there any concern there?
There is. I mean, the harder the wood you burn, the better your fireplace is. But over time, it does build up soot on the sides. It should be cleaned usually around every 2 cords of wood. You should have a chimney sweep come in, sweep out all that stuff because, yes, it actually can catch fire.
What about those chimney cleaning logs? I burnt one of those a couple days ago, and I figured if we do have what little soot up there, maybe this will help. Does it help?
It doesn't hurt anything. Is it going to be a catch-all? No. But it helps a little bit, but it's really not a cure-all. It's not a replacement for getting a chimney sweep in there, because when the chimney sweep comes in, He's physically moving the debris and verifying that there's no cracks in the fireplace, up in through the chimney and all that stuff.
Great. I think I've used the fireplace like maybe 10 times in the 3 years that we lived there, so I should be okay, right?
You should be totally fine.
All right. Is anything else I'm missing here in getting ready for the cold weather? I mean, I didn't even think about people with pools because I don't have one, but there's a whole lot of water and probably freezing issues with that. Anything else you do for pools?
Cover all the equipment and stuff with blankets. You're good there. If you've got a lot of people have water faucets that stand up, out in the yard or near their house and stuff come up out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Throw a 5-gallon bucket over the top of it. You're good. On your hose bib, if you don't have the little styrofoam cover, just wrap a towel around it. It'll do the same thing.
Okay. Jim Dutton, Texas Home Improvement. Where do they find your work outside of the James Show?
thipro.com.
Thank you very much, Jim Dutton. Back to the phones we go. Kathy, Midlothian, you're on WBAP. What do you think? Kathy?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Hey there. So I was listening to some of your callers, and I felt the urge to call in for the first time. I'm on my way home from work. I'm a pilot and out of DFW, and I have to go to work tomorrow or I won't get paid. So I haven't decided if I'm going to leave, 4 hours early or, 3 hours early, go tonight and stay at a hotel at my own expense just to make sure I get there. Sometimes I feel like if it's not a government job, like if it's a government job, it's easier for them to just cancel. But if you have a business, you can't just pay everyone to not show up.
Well, and see, you're a good example of, I'm concerned about the kids that are watching. They see Kathy in Midlothian going through this extra effort, this extra planning, this extra expense. Why? Because your job is important. But when they close school at the drop of a hat, you're telling these kids education is not important. Going to school is not important. And I think that's more dangerous than a couple people slipping off the road.
Absolutely. I agree with you. There's work ethic and I understand the danger of being on icy roads, but you take it really slow, or you come in the night before, or you do what you need to do to get there.
Kathy, the one real winter I had when I lived in Northwest Oklahoma, it was only for 1 year, and it did snow, and there was snow on the ground for like 3 months. It was amazing. I was like, this is like on TV. You know what they do different about the road situation? Because they say, people around here don't know how to drive in ice like they do up north. No, they just slide off the road all day, every day. Like your traffic reports, your news reports. There's a diesel that slid off the road on the way to Shattuck, or there's 4 cars in the ditch by the time you get to drop your kids off at school. No, they just slide around, just like we do here. They just slide into the ditch. They get out and they keep going. Anyway, thank you very much. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Yeah, they don't drive much better in the ice just because they have more practice. It's still ice. You still slip around. Maybe you bump into each other every once in a while. Maybe you end up in a ditch every once in a while. But you still need to do your job. Coming up next, we'll get an update from the National Weather Service. Latest on the forecast with the winter storm supposed to be hitting now tomorrow morning. If you want to jump in, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yay, let's go. Right into the cold weather. We're expecting some wintry mix to happen about the time we're waking up tomorrow, and you'll be listening to WBAP Morning Show. My beef is with all these people closing schools so fast. Your thoughts, 800-288-9227. In the first hour, I did a great rundown of all my little bullet points. I'd made notes last night and then added to them this morning. If you didn't get to hear that and you're confused, like, why do you feel so strongly about this, Parker? Go listen to the podcast. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to go home. I'll put it up and you can check out the rundown with all the bullet points. But to do the quick summary, as it stands now, public schools only do 21 full weeks of instruction for students. We need to stop dipping into that. 21 weeks? Y'all need to be a little more stout about taking days off. But also, it sends a terrible message to kids about how unimportant education really is. If you close it on Friday and we don't even know if there's going to be anything on the ground on Friday. We don't know if there's going to be one problem on Friday. You can say there's an abundance of caution, but if you can do abundance of caution all the way into where you never go to school any day whatsoever. There's never going to be a risk-free day to go to school. If you drive to school, you're risking someone dying or being hurt or getting sued or getting in a wreck or whatever. So it's just a terrible message we're sending to kids. And it's not just about tomorrow and Friday. It's about in the fall when your kids had to take a day off school because it rained really hard. And so they just canceled school on Friday. It's also, we're still in the wake of COVID, where they would close class for, hey, there was someone on your campus that had a positive test yesterday. Now they're not allowed to come to school, but no one's allowed to come to school. So that's the super short summary here. But I'm getting some criticism that I feel like they didn't hear that first hour. So maybe you didn't either. Marion says over here on Facebook, teachers do not make decisions to close schools or the curriculum, you moron. School calendars have built-in snow days, and if they exceed those, they have makeup days later in the year. Plus, some parents need advance notice to get childcare for their young children. If the parents are required to go to work in bad conditions, think about someone beside yourself. Okay. I mean, I addressed all these on the show earlier, so she just didn't hear. The makeup days, sometimes they do have makeup days and snow days built into the calendar, but if they go too far out of it, they get exemptions sometimes. We see that they don't always make it up. But even if they do make it up, the point is you're telling kids it's not important. You're telling kids it's not something you fight for. You're telling kids, well, man, I don't know. I might get my shoes wet. It's raining too hard. We better not go to school. No, education is important. Even if there's dangerous conditions, that's how important it is. That's how important it is that you read books, that you learn math, that you learn history. Not, well, it might snow tomorrow, so we're going to take tomorrow and Friday off. That's beyond it. Let's see. You need to get advance notice for your young children. That was something we addressed earlier. For all the places up north that actually have to cancel school when it's too bad to physically go from point A to point B, they get canceled at the last minute and people adjust. Also, when we were kids, we got canceled at the last minute and our parents adjusted. Also, I think it's more important that parents have to scramble at the last minute to find accommodations for their kids rather than taking extra unnecessary days off. I understand that that's not a good thing. I'm saying the opposite is worse. So, but thank you for listening, Marion. I really encourage you to go back and listen to that first hour of the show whenever I get it put up. And then Max, the very next comment on Facebook after Marion says, James, love the show. Concerning snow days, I agree with you. We used to have something called a 2-hour or 3-hour delayed opening. Call for that over a full on Friday closure. I think he had a typo there, but we got the point. Yeah. How about just delay school? How about wait until we see if there's like one flake on the ground before we cancel Friday? How about do your job? You know, part of the reason this is a problem is because they're a prepaid government monopoly. They're not missing a check. There's no negative consequences to them. And I know teachers don't make the decisions to close the schools, Marion, but I don't see the teachers on Facebook demanding we open schools or saying, hey, this isn't good for the kids. Hey, we need to go to work. They're not demanding to go to work. You know, I don't see the principals demanding to go to work. I don't see other superintendents calling out the bad actors within their group. We have one, Larry Johnson, that's on the show every once in a while. I don't know. Homeschool your kids. How about that? Lawrence. Let's do Lawrence. Lawrence in Grand Prairie. You're on WBAP. What do you think, sir?
Man, you know, I'm from up north. Okay, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Woo!
And what we do there, brother, I'm gonna tell you, you're right in what you're saying, 100%. The weather has to be bad or the snow has to be coming. They usually give you a call around 10 o'clock to midnight to let you know if the school is going to be canceled. If the weather continues to be to where the kids can't go to school, then they'll cancel it the next day, but never 2 or 3 days in advance of a weather situation. So my kids went to school when the snow was up to their kneecaps in Indianapolis. And they walked to the bus stop. We walked them to the bus stop. All I did was get out in the morning and shovel a pathway for them to go. So, yeah, I've been here in Texas about 11 years, and I tell you, man, I laugh because those kids are going to school. Indianapolis just had a bad snowstorm, and the only reason they canceled school for that one day was because the weather was bad after 8 o'clock in the evening. Now, if parents can't get themselves situated at that point in time, then there's an issue with the parents and what they do. And I'm done, and I'll let you have it from there.
Hey, look, this is one of the few times on the James Show when it's good to hear from a Yankee. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Actually, useful context and insight. Now, I know what a lot of my fellow natives are going to say. Well, you know, up in Indianapolis, they have plows and they have salt trucks or brine trucks or whatever they use, and they have the infrastructure to deal with it, and we don't. And could we put up a little more fight, please? Can we pretend like just for the kids for 5 seconds that it's important? Dax in Graham, you're on WBAP. What do you think, Dax?
Hey, James. I'm wondering why you think that we shouldn't cancel school. I mean, I'm a high school student myself, so like it's dangerous on the roads and the buses. And what about the kids falling and breaking their backs?
Well, what about the guy that just called, Lawrence from Indianapolis? Kids are going to school this week in knee-deep snow. How do they do it?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, you might have just changed my point of view there.
Oh, well, look at that. He's honest, too. That is so rare. All right, Dax. I appreciate it. It's so rare on talk radio for someone to admit when they're wrong. I don't think you realize how rare that is. What are you doing to listen to WBAP at such a young age? I like the sound of that.
Well, I just got interested in it. Just turned it on in my car and just went from there.
Do other 18-year-olds know what a radio is?
I don't know about that. Spotify is the more popular thing.
Yeah, I deal with that with my kids. They know I'm on the radio, but they're not quite sure what a radio is. So I'm working on that. Tell the other kids you can't get old Parker on Spotify.
There's nothing like James Parker on Spotify.
Actually, the James Show podcast, I hear if you search for that on other apps besides the WBAP app, it might come up. Thank you very much, Dax and Graham. Keep listening and tell your friends. Have time for another one? I don't have time for another one, do I? All right, Garrett's giving me the evil look. 800-288-9227 if you want to call in on the school canceling, the snow, all that good stuff. I do have a couple of headlines that I'm going to run by you, including the advancing debate on adding territory, whether it's Greenland or Canada or Panama or whatever we're picking up. The media response to that is just clownishly hilarious. And you're going to love the audio I'm playing for you coming up. Because the guy that's making the most sense, John Fetterman, really? The guy that has a brain bleed so bad he can't read words anymore. He's the Democrat making most sense. The guy that's wearing the sweatshirt hoodie, that's the one that makes the most sense. All right. Yeah, so it's a great day for news. We're just kind of sidelined by weather right now. That and your calls coming up. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The discussion continues here. School canceling classes. Man, it's gotten out of control. I realize, someone might get hurt if we have school on that day. Well, someone might get hurt any day we have school. We talk about it's all about the safety of the children. Really? So someone might slip and twist an ankle or hurt their back or whatever. Meanwhile, you get to school, you go to cheerleading practice, and they just chuck Tina 20 feet in the air to do 2 flips, and then some little girls are going to catch her. That's a level of acceptable danger for our kids, but driving on snowy roads isn't. Playing football, how many kids are going to have neck injuries or break their neck or break an arm, or sometimes they get paralyzed, God forbid, or just concussions all over the place? That's an acceptable level of risk and danger and harm for our kids. Is football more important than math? Is football more important than reading English and learning your history? Judging by my callers, history wasn't a strong topic for a lot of people. And I don't mean you people on the whole. I mean from previous shows. Obviously, you people are all geniuses. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Just making all kinds of friends today, aren't I? Right? Just made good friends with the bicycle community earlier this week. Still hearing about that. Don in Louisville, you're on the James Show. What do you think?
James, I totally agree with you. One thing I want to look at is what's the temperature been the last 3 nights?
Like dip down in the 20s?
Yes, and now tomorrow it's supposed to be 33 and above. And what temperature does freezing occur?
Oh, I don't know. They canceled school that day because it might have rained the following day. So I missed that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's not even going to be below freezing for the next 2 days, but yeah, we're closing school for accumulations of snow.
Well, look, I have the forecast I have on my phone overnight tonight says 29, and for Friday it says 30. So for a brief few hours, it may be a temperature a degree or 2 below freezing. But yeah, that is the light and trifling causes by which we cancel school in 2025, and I think it's just too low. That bar is too low. We have to raise it.
Even as a parent with kids in school, I totally agree. I mean, I'd rather wait till it's actually something going on to actually cancel so my kids learn to the point you've been making that school is important and education is important, and we don't just stop and not go because... All
right, Don, it's no fun when you agree with me. I got to find someone to argue with, all right?
Okay, man.
Thank you, sir. Lewis in Fort Worth, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, we've got a hodgepodge of people moving down here from up north that drive in the snow and such, but they get 2 and 3 feet of snow at a time. We get ice, then we get snow.
Okay. What's your point?
And, well, my wife went out and walked on ice and fractured her tailbone. there are hazards to it, but we get more ice and then we get the snow, and the snow doesn't really make much difference.
Right. So where does that put you on closing schools tomorrow and Friday?
It depends on just whether or not it actually gets that bad. But if the ice is still exposed, it is a danger.
Agreed.
I don't care about the snow.
Okay. I guess I pretty much agree with that. Yeah. Let's try Brian in Mesquite. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Well, if you want somebody to argue with, well, that's me. You got your name.
All right.
Here,
Brian in Mesquite.
This is Brian, just like the stuff that Brian they put on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how y'all do it up there in Honeysuckle or Fudgesicle or wherever you're from.
Bug Tussle.
Bug Tussle, there you go. All right. Well, out here in Dallas in the city, it can sprinkle. These people just don't know how to drive. It takes you an hour to go 10 minutes. And, some of these folks, they don't have a way to pick up their kids and do all this stuff. And, I'm going to stay home from work tomorrow, and it's sunny right now. So I'm all in favor of closing the schools. I think it's just better to plan ahead. And, we learned during COVID that they can just do their work on the computer, or them teachers can send them some homework home with them today. We'll be just fine.
Well, you're not the kind of disagreement I'm looking for, because you actually made some points that I would make in the affirmative. I would, to bolster my case.
We could get on our bikes and we could use the bike lane. We can get there that way.
Oh my God! Now I hate you again. All right, you're banned from the show.
Okay, have a good one.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, he heard that the bike lane show earlier this week. Well, that was one of my points. Is that people, if you let them say, well, if there's any bad weather, there's an extra danger, we need to close school. Well, that means we would close school pretty much every time it rained. And Brian sort of made my point. He would be cool with that. There's people out there that are like, oh my God, it's going to rain tomorrow. We better close school. Abundance of caution. No, man. No, that's not how we think. We're Americans, damn it. Our great-great-grandfather got in a covered wagon and went and crossed dodging Indian arrows to get here. And we're like, oh, it might rain Friday. No, we're made of tougher stuff than that. And our children need to be made of tougher stuff than that. And they're not going to be if you treat them like a Fabergé egg. And yeah, why cancel school? Why not go back and just do school remotely? Oh, because you would still have to work. Sounds like you just want the day off. Why not delay school? Why not wait until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock after the sun's been out and done some melting out there and the crews can, I don't know, take care of the streets or groom the ice a little bit? No. It sounds like you just want the day off. Sounds like you're just being lazy. John, River Oaks, you're on WBAP. Do I have time? Make it quick. We got like a minute here, John. You're on WBAP. What do you think, John?
It's all about meeting the seats. I think it's a money deal. That's five. They get 5 weather days a year. Every school district, they pay by the local, the state, and the federal. And no, that's just an easy day off. Doesn't count against their like a sick day or the PTO, personal time off. That's just a free day. They can make it up, but they don't have to. They're going to get the cash anyways. So I think it's I think they're a little quicker down here. Well, I've lived here all my life, but I think they're quicker here to just call a school day. And guess what? Now every teacher is going to have Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday off. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
look at it.
No,
they're real quick to pull the trigger. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And then that's my complaint. Not that they should never close school or the weather's never bad enough. They're way too quick to pull the trigger, though. And I totally agree. And while I've lived most of my life here, either in Dallas or 80 miles east of here in Bug Tussle, I did get the chance to live in a couple other places. And some of the things that we say about Texas, they say everywhere else, too. So like something I heard growing up here, if you don't like the weather in Texas, just wait 10 minutes. It'll change. You know what? That's what they said when I moved to Oklahoma. That's what they said when I moved to New Orleans. That's what they said when I had to go to New York. I didn't live there like on a permanent basis, but I had to work up there.
New York City!
Just being in radio when I was in satellite, I would have to stay there for like a week at a time. And so they would say the same thing because I would gripe, oh my goodness, it's snowing. They're like, well, if you don't like the weather in New York, just wait 10 minutes. They say that everywhere. You know what else they say everywhere? Well, yeah, they can handle it elsewhere, but drivers here don't know what they're doing. The drivers here are terrible. Everyone thinks the drivers are terrible in their hometown. Everyone thinks the weather is erratic and dynamic in their hometown. So that was just some of the lessons I learned. Thank God I got to come back because I did not want to stay out of Texas 1 second longer than I had to. All right. More calls coming up and some news headlines. If you want to jump in, there's only one line open. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Listen, one more segment to talk about the weather, and then we actually have some headlines. There's things happening outside of Texas that I think you would be interested in hearing. They're just hilarious storylines, too. So, but right now, lines have been full ever since I brought this up. The idea that we're closing schools for Thursday and Friday, we don't even know how bad it's going to be. It's not even expected to be that bad, like worst case scenario. And when you put this into context, it's not about today, tomorrow, and Friday. It's this whole hair trigger canceling of schools that has happened. And it's not how things were conducted when you and I were kids. This is something new. And it's our fault. We're the ones in charge now. I imagine you're around my age. I'm in my late 40s. So people plus or minus 10 years from me are the people making these decisions. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why do we cancel school so easily, so quickly these days? That is wrong. It's not good for the kids. It's not good for education. 800-288-9227. Let's ask Steve in the Colony. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Steve?
Well, first of all, I don't disagree. I think we're closing too early, but you keep asking why, and I can tell you why. School funding's based on average daily attendance, and if they open those doors tomorrow and only half the kids show up, they're going to lose their shorts.
Is it average daily attendance? I thought it was like per head per day you get a stipend.
That is correct. So if half of those kids don't show up tomorrow, they're only going to get half that stipend amount, and we're already running in deficit budgets all across the state.
Oh, I get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was on me. I was a little slow on the pickup there. So when they do the snow days and they do the makeup days, they get higher attendance, therefore more money, or really just the same amount of money they would have got had there not been a weather event. They're maintaining funding. Makes sense.
That is correct. Most districts are in the upper 90 percentiles in their attendance. If it all of a sudden dropped to 50 for 2 days in a row, boy, they're losing a ton. And in a deficit budget, they can't afford it. Some of the other things you might want to consider. You know what? My wife was a daycare provider for years and years and years, and she's retired already. But she's already had 10 phone calls for the next 2 days, people looking for daycare that are going to have to go to work tomorrow. And it gives those parents an opportunity to try to find some place to put the kids instead of having to ditch and stay home with the kids. So, hey, there's just one more point I'd like to make. It's kind of bothers me. I've listened to you for the last hour. You keep saying, boy, we're telling those kids that education is not important.
Right.
I kind of look at it exactly the opposite way. I think we're telling those kids that they are so important that we are just not willing to run the risk with them. But
then we would never put them in a car. We would never take them to the grocery store if they're so important.
Well,
they can't have. We wouldn't have cheerleaders flipping in the air. We wouldn't have football players breaking their necks.
I agree, but the cheerleaders are trained. The football players are wearing the correct cervical collars and helmets. We take all the precautions that we can. And this is a precaution that we can take that isn't going to hurt anybody and helps everybody all the way around. But granted, it is aggravating when we're making that call 2 days in advance.
See, I don't think this does help everybody. I think there's thousands of businesses that are going to be missing employees tomorrow because parents have to scramble and maybe take care of the kids themselves. There's lost productivity. There's money. If they do have to come out of pocket and get a daycare, that's money that they were going to spend at other businesses, or money that they were going to invest, or money they were going to use to pay off their own student loans, or all these other things.
I don't disagree, but I'll tell you what, you have one child injured tomorrow, and there's not enough money in the whole world to save that school district. So,
how do you say that? How do you say that when kids get hurt every day at school? Just one more fender bender, and that's what's going to collapse the system? I mean, we having kids that are breaking their legs. We have cheerleaders that are ripping their Achilles tendon off. We have, dude, the point of childhood isn't to remove everything that's dangerous. That's not a good way to raise kids. You're going to raise a whole generation of slaves. Brad in Arlington, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm a teacher, but I'm also from Oklahoma, where canceling school was a lot more, difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but they have a lot more.
Did we lose him?
I'm sorry.
No, your phone broke up for a second. Go ahead.
Am I okay?
I think you are now.
Okay. That last caller made some good points, but one point that is just the bottom line nowadays is that school districts are worried about being sued. And so they're going to take every precaution in the book. And I'm a coach, and I know that when I played sports, you didn't hear about things about being games being postponed or stopped because of lightning and stuff like that. You just took the chance. Well, school districts aren't taking those chances anymore. And if there's something that happens, if a school bus goes off the road and children are injured because they decided to go ahead and go with school, they're going to get sued. And so that's a big thing that these people, that the leaders take into account is like they know they're entrusted with the.
How do we have any school district in a place like Indiana where it snows tons every year? They don't all get sued out of existence? How do they do it? Let's just do whatever they do. Whatever their playbook is.
They have a lot better equipment and a lot more prepared than Dallas, Texas is. Dallas does not have
Disagree. I lived in Northwest Oklahoma for 1 year, and I got to see. You know what they did special with their school buses for snow days in Woodward ISD?
No,
nothing. They did nothing special. No, we don't need some special infrastructure or tires or equipment, and that's why it's okay for them to take risks with kids in Indiana, but not in Dallas. That doesn't hold water. And guys, I'm so sorry all of you had to stay on hold for no reason, but I got to close this up. There's a few headlines we're going to get to next, and things that are important besides the cold weather in your school and whatnot, as important as that is. Just a couple things from the news you got to get caught up on, and we're going to have some fun with it too. Hey, the idea of territorial expansion for every country would be considered a good thing, right? Well, there's a lot of people who say if America territorially expands, that's a very dumb idea. How could that be a bad thing? How? Getting Greenland would be bad? How? Explain to me how that would harm the country if we expanded our territory. Anyway, we'll talk about that next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking about whatever snow happens. Friday's show may actually just be the atomic bomb. You can just roll down your window and you can hear my head exploding on Friday's show. You know what? I don't need the microphone. I don't need the radio tower. You will just hear my head exploding if there's no snow on the ground and all these schools are canceled. I am going to go insane. So you may want to check back in on me on Friday because I might just have a stroke. Live on the air. You'll just hear my head hit the microphone on the way down, and that'll be the end of old Parker. That'll be the last thing you hear from me. That's my final quote. It's my head hitting the windscreen on the way down. Just boom. But actual news is happening outside of the weather. Joe Biden had to speak today. He was in California, and they're going through it. They got some wildfires all over LA, and a bunch of houses were burned in Malibu, and we have some people dead. And so he does this like little press availability, standing next to Gavin Newsom and some dude I don't recognize, mayor of Palisades or something. And Gavin Newsom was talking to the reporters, and they don't have a podium and a microphone, so he's just talking at a distance, and you can hear him okay. But he's saying, you know what? The second we had problems, Joe Biden was down here. We didn't even have to ask him to come. He was already on his way. The first sign that Americans were in trouble. He was a man of action. And then it's his turn to talk, and you can barely hear him. And he's like, "Yeah, I was coming down here anyway because I'm having a great grandchild. My first great grandkid's being born, so I'm a great grandfather now. Isn't that great?" And just totally undercut him. But it's not just funny that Gavin Newsom was telling the lie. Hey, he came down here because there's people burning alive. And he's like, "No, I'm coming down here to see my baby. There's just a coincidence. There's a fire. So I wanted to stop by here out of convenience." So he totally undercut that. But I want you can't see him, but you can hear him. And you can probably hear it, what I'm about to describe to you. He's gone. Like, he is barely standing up. And he's alive, obviously, but there's nothing going on behind his eyes. It's like looking at the animatronic shark from Jaws. You know how there's like it's a robot eye, not real. It's like you're getting a press conference from one of the robots at Showbiz Pizza Place. You know, they had the robots that did the band. Like, there's no real expression there. Like, his eyebrows are moving, but there's no thought process going on. I just want you to hear a little bit of it because it even sounds like that. just listen to how weak his voice is. Granted, he's standing about 6 feet away from the guy filming him, but you could hear Gavin Newsom just fine, and whoever that other dude was. I know you can't understand that, but that's the point. This guy's not going to make it another 4 years for sure. It looks really bad. The other funny story that I thought you'd get a kick out of is this whole talk about territorial expansion. For all of human history, most countries saw territorial expansion as not only a good thing, but a sign that you were doing great. But now it's a terrible idea. Here's a couple of people. This is Alex Wagner on MSNBC last night.
And I'm the first one to point out that a lot of this seems totally unhinged, which is what I said earlier. But I do think there's something. Yeah,
so it's unhinged. The guy she was talking to, a representative, his name is Himes.
Alex, as the election results became clear, I swore to myself that I would not chase every single shiny object, every mad raving of our next president.
So expanding territory, it's crazy. It's mad raving. But who says making the United States, growing the United States is mad? It's a terrible idea. It's stupid. It's mad raving. Are you nuts? So who's making?
I think there'll be more of these parts. Go ahead.
Did I do that? So who's making the most sense on this? John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, the guy that had a stroke. He runs around all day in a sweater hoodie. He's the only one that's making any sense on this. He's a Democrat that's actually saying, no, territorial expansion is generally seen as a good thing. For every society and every country throughout 10,000 years of recorded human civilization, territorial expansion was considered a good thing.
You think there'll be more of these parts? Go ahead.
Can I talk about, like there's a lot of talk about Greenland, for example. Now, and I know there's a lot of freakouts, and of course I would never support taking it by force. But I do think it's a responsible conversation if they were open to acquiring it and, whether just buying it outright. I mean, if anyone think that's bonkers, it's like, well, remember the Louisiana purchase? Oh, I think Alaska was a great deal too. $50 million, I think it was. It was referred to as Seward's Folly, and now that was Alaska now. So I mean,
look, he's got historical references. He's actually supporting his points with like actual data and facts and history. And this guy is such a piece of work that it's hilarious that he is the one that's making the most sense. I mean, the hoodie thing bothers me. Dude, put on a suit. You're on Fox News. You're on the floor of the Senate. What are you wearing, a costume? Did someone tell you that looks good? But why are these things stupid? Why is renaming the Gulf of Mexico stupid? Was it stupid when Obama renamed Mount McKinley? No. Was it stupid to rename all those military bases? No. Was it stupid to rename all the high schools named after Robert E. Lee? Was it stupid to take down all the statues and monuments? Was it stupid to rename all the streets? No, but renaming the Gulf of Mexico, that's stupid. Huh? Territorial expansion of the U.S. is a bad thing now? Really? These people. If John Fetterman is the one out of your group making the most sense, you may want to reevaluate your worldview, Team Blue. All right, get ready for the snow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin. If you want to hear more James Show, I'm about to go put up the podcast. It'll be right in about an hour or so. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.